1, 2. What is this? This is Shifting Paradigms. I'm your host, B. Michael. We are live here today on Monday, August 2nd, 2021 on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom Radio, brought to you by none other than the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. We got Baba G. Walker on the soundboard, holding it up, keeping it down, making it happen here for the public radio. Big shout out to all the listeners. Big shout out to all the sponsors for KUAW. Everybody who supports all the programming that takes place here on this dynamic radio station. Want to go ahead and just dive right into what we're going to be getting in today. This is going to be part 3. This is going to be the last installment of the Tree of Life Paradigmatics. We've been going over a whole bunch of information as relates to what the Tree of Life is all about, the consciousness that it entails, the practices, some key terms, the outcome in terms of really understanding our true nature in the image and likeness of the Most High. Image dealing with our perception, being able to see what is real, what is true in this existence, and to also be able to have the intellect, the divine intellect, the likeness of the Most High, to actually carry forward the mission of manifestation. So we're going to get right to this. There is a physical place in the transformation of the body that starts from the pituitary and the pineal gland, whose secretions actually stimulate this transformation internally, which gives us that anointing, this birth of light, if you will. This transformation of one's nature from corruptible to incorruptible, right? From terrestrial to celestial, because it comes from our heavens, from our Holy of Holies. That's what we're talking about today. But this tree of life, what is this tree of life that of which we speak? It says that the transfiguration directly leads us to the main focus of this essay, which is none other than the tree of life. In Hebrew, it's called Etz Chaim. Earlier, we defined the tree of life as a demonstrated understanding of the transformation process derived from the activities that bind to existence, and it is through such intimate understanding that one will be able to access this most encoded teaching. This is because the transfiguration and the tree of life are intrinsically connected to the experience of the individual who has entered what is called the work of the chariot, or the Ma'aseh Merkabah in Hebrew, and has ascended each of the spheres of the Sephirot of the tree of life to the peak sphere known as the crown or Keter. So this is about elevating your consciousness from your lower nature to your highest nature. And when you get to that peak of your nature, that is what serves as the connecting point, the bridge, if you will, between heaven and earth, between celestial and terrestrial consciousness. It is, in fact, the activation of the light, our original nature and countenance, that demonstrated that one has been granted access to the tree of life. So this can go back in scriptures to Genesis 2, particularly when Adam was formed in the garden, and his wife even was presented with him, and he saw that she was flesh of his flesh and bone of his bones. But their nature, their primordial nature, this is their original nature, prior to them eating from the tree of life, was that of light. And that is what, in fact, clothed them. They were clothed in light. And so when they found that they were naked, it's because that light had been removed from them because of their breaking of the pattern, because of their disobedience, if you will, okay? But related back and referring back to this nature and countenance, this light covering Adam, Abraham, Moses, are other patriarchs who have entered the chariot and received the illuminating power of the crown or Keter. You can also include Enoch. You can also include Elijah, many history that were able to achieve experience. This monumental task is achieved through study, prayer, obedience, visualization, meditation, and application. Once again, this monumental task is achieved through study, prayer, obedience, visualization, meditation, and application. The corresponding physical reality is symbolized at the peak of our head, which represents the spiritual dimension of Keter, or the crown. This area is what is also recognized as the crown chakra. Composed of the 10 spheres, the tree of life being composed of the 10 spheres that we earlier discussed in the term section, this most sacred teaching is the essence of the Shema prayer. The Shema prayer means the prayer to heed, to hear. This is the actually pledge of allegiance to the kingdom of heaven on earth. And as its most intimate meaning, this Shema prayer reveals that the oneness spoken of in reference to the Most High Yah is also a reference to the covenanted connection with his children who are in accord with the Father's Spirit. This oneness is expressed in the righteous character, nature, words, and actions of the individual who has embodied the mind of Yah as revealed in the Torah. And this is what the Torah provides us. It provides us with the ability to understand and to even ascertain the mind of Yah, the creator of heaven, earth, sea, and everything that is in them. This is the meaning of the passage from Ezekiel, which states, wherever the Spirit was to go, they went, because where the Spirit went, there they went. And the wheels were lifted together with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. This is from Ezekiel 120. These wheels are the conscious spheres that lead to these higher levels of awareness and being. At Revelation 2:7, Yehoshua speaks of giving those who overcome the right to the scriptures. Other prophetic visions like that of Daniel, Ezekiel, and Zechariah are also similar revelatory experiences centered in the Tree of Life teaching. In regards to Yahushua's declaration about being granted the right to eat from the Tree of Life, he uses the word netzach, or victory, which means to overcome. So when he even pronounces those who have been given the right to eat from the Tree of Life have been given the victory, the netzach, the overcoming. Okay, so that is a very important principle to actually understand as relates to him using this Kabbalistic code. Okay, so as one of the Sephirot on the Tree of Life itself, netzach is the ultimate accomplishment of harnessing and mastering all of the desires of the mind and body and channeling them in the direction of serving the Father with all of one's being, that opens the channel for entering this consciousness. This is how we are able to enter into this consciousness, when we offer ourselves up entirely to this reality. It is only then, when self-mastery has been accomplished, that one will be able to have access to the ultimate level of existence for humanity to experience. This is the overcoming of which Yahushua speaks, to be able to experience true life. We are given this code initially at Genesis 4:7, when Yah informs the enraged Cain that if you do well, is there not acceptance? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should master it, right? This is what the overcoming is all about, mastering the desires that war in your members, first and foremost. As one progresses and gains control of this prerequisite condition, it is as such that when mastery is acquired, then one will have a more clear path to receive this all-powerful energy that transfiguration affords. In this writing's opening quote, which mentions the Tree of Life passage from Revelation, the principle of having understanding, which is Bina on the Tree of Life, is implicit in the idea of overcoming, and thus being granted the right to eat from the Tree of Life. In Revelation 2:7, Yahushua says in code that the one who is able to internalize the vision by heeding and obeying the mind that is yoked to the perspective of enlightenment is then able to perceive and enter the means of ascent, which is the tree of life, where they are able to travel into spiritual realms by concentrating on every concept release with every saying of Yah to make full the mind in order to bring about a higher consciousness to those abiding in enlightened order and instructions. So this is, and what was the word that is would they use? There's a amplified verse right here. This verse is amplified. So the words in Hebrew that he speak are actually amplified and protracted into a further concept that allows us to really enter into the depths of understanding of what he was saying. Again, the one who is able to internalize the vision by heeding and obeying the mind that is yoked to the perspective of enlightenment, right? So those who are able to perceive, understand, and then make this teaching relevant to their life, and then they heed and obey it, given the inspiration that the mind that is, or the revelation, I would say, that the mind which shared this particular revelation in connection with it is able to receive this perspective of enlightenment. And then by that enlightenment that they receive from internalizing the vision, are able to see the vehicle by which they can actually ascend into the higher realms of life. And it is through the concentrated effort that they make based on the concepts that they are gathering that allows for them to receive and utilize the teachings, the instructions that Yah gives in order to fully enlighten the mind, to bring about this consciousness as a result of their obedience to these instructions that they're given. And that is where life is found and life abundant, okay? So this pronouncement by Yahushua is the first of 7 proclamations prophetically spoken to the 7 assemblies in Asia Minor, of whom were being exhorted to rededicate themselves in faithful adherence to the Torah, or else face the most dreaded consequence of permanent and eternal excision or cutting off from the household of faith. Okay, this is where the correction, the reproof, right? The lessons that we're learning, intended to learn in life, are so valuable to us because they keep us connected to the source of life. But if we do not heed the lessons and the corrections that are offered, well, we find ourselves typically disconnected from that very source which maintains and sustains our life. Continuing on. Again, the language utilized with these pronouncements are Kabbalistic through and through, especially when read in Hebrew. The ideas behind them, therefore, are also pregnant with the principles of this tradition. Therefore, their true meaning are only revealed to those who have ultimately mastered themselves by controlling their inclinations, transcending their carnal natures, their flesh, decoding the message, and thus are able to tap into the supreme universal mind of Yah. Just as it was the expectation for the 7 assemblies, so too are the inadequacies which we are beleaguered with to be addressed, rectified, and our observance of Torah reestablished, so that we then might experience the marvelous promises to follow, which was assured to them by the Master himself. The 7 promised pronouncements are as follows. So the thing about truth, before I get into these pronouncements, the thing about truth is applicable in every generation. And human nature, in essence, is the same throughout human history. And when we understand how to master human nature, right, and to bring human nature into our control and to channel it for the higher purpose of bringing forth a global reality that will allow ones to experience peace, love, and justice, and righteousness, and truth, right? Order. These things are carried out by those who have enlightened their minds and walked in this path. But what are the 7 pronouncements? Those 7 pronouncements are to be unharmed by the second death. So the first death really is an illusory sleep, but the second death is the permanent separation. Okay, and this is what some people would call hell. In the Hebrew, it is known as Gehenna. Gehenna is the lake of fire. The lake of fire is just an entire baptism of your being in fire, which therefore removes you from existence. And that is actually interesting when you understand how Gehenna was a valley outside of Jerusalem where all the refuse was dumped and thrown and to be burned. Well, this is where that concept of the lake of fire comes from in the Hebrew ideology, from a place called Gehenna, right outside of Jerusalem. And that's where the second death also on earth has its point of reference to be made. But the second one is to have access to the hidden manna and receive a white stone on which a new name is engraved. And the hidden manna, of course, is the bread of life. Okay, and so this renewed name means that we have now a new essence, a new identity. We have a new purpose. We have a new entire character and nature. Higher, of course. The third is to receive power to rule over nations and to be given the morning star, right? To be the rulers, to bring forth justice, to be the priests of this earth in serving the Most High and the people in leading them into an order, a righteous order with the righteous kingdom. The fourth is to be clothed in white raiment, named with your name etched in the book of life and your name confessed before the Father and his messengers. Okay, this is that cloud of which is spoken of, this white raiment. The white raiment are the righteousness, the righteous works and acts of the faithful. But your name etched in the book of life. This means you have eternal life. You have an everlasting lot of life now. Okay, and then you're known to the Most High. Your name confessed before the Father and his messengers. The fifth is to be made into a firm and established pillar in the temple of Elohim, the name of Elohim and the city of Elohim written upon them, as well as Yahoshua's new name. Okay, so now you are a fixture in the kingdom. You are a foundational pillar in the kingdom for those who overcome. These are the promises, okay? You have the name of Elohim and the city of Elohim written upon you because now you are that representative. You are that light bearer, that firm established pillar upon which Yah's kingdom is truly established. And then lastly, to be seated upon the throne with Yahushua in the kingdom of the Father. So these are 6 of the 7. The 7, of course, is the right to eat from the tree of life. It's in the paradise of our Father and our Elohim. So this again is dealing with rulership. Okay, and sovereignty. The Hebraic language and imagery employed in these pronouncements are strikingly familiar to the objective of the cultural and spiritual transmission of the Kabbalah, in that both transcendence and unification of the consciousness of light are to be interchanged and experienced by the children of Israel. This becomes all the more apparent as these pronouncements recall the transforming experiences of the patriarchs Abraham from Abram and Israel from Jacob, undergoing a transformation of consciousness and thus a transformation of identity. Okay, and so you see even Hosea become Yahushua, the son of Nun, the successor of Moses, which is the first name change. Well, no, excuse me, it's not Jacob. Abram is the first that you see, and Sarai, who becomes Sarah. And then you actually get into Jacob, who goes to Israel. And then on down, you see that Hosea becomes Yahushua, the son of Nun, the successor of Moses. So you see these transformations taking place. Abram was amongst a idolatrous, human sacrificing cult in Ur of Chaldea. And so those things were, you know, he may not have participated in them, but they were part of his environment. He was well aware of them. Jacob was a manipulator. He was a beguiler, a deceiver even, until he wrestled with the angel of the Most High and received a new identity. And so this is that rebirth process that this transfiguration also has to accompany with it. You know, a lot of times people say, well, I was just born this way. And instead of understanding, yes, we may have been born a certain way, or we may have been nurtured a certain way, but to become who we are intended to be in spirit and truth, we have to undergo a rebirth. There is a transformation that still must take place to go from a lower nature to a higher nature, from a base consciousness to an ethereal consciousness, based on substantial evidence. It's not online. I just got a text, Baba G, saying that the recording is not online. Interesting. Okay.
It's not.
I just got a text asking if I was coming back online.
Let me listen. Just a second.
I did see a recording stop, but I was thinking that was just the one I was on, and then there was another one picking up.
I didn't see it stop. Let me pull up. Okay, just a second.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
See where it went. Okay, you're still on Facebook.
Okay. Okay. It must have been my one that got cut off. Okay. Okay. It did stop. Microphone check. We're still talking about the tree of life. Can you hear me all right? Check, 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 check. The sound, can you hear me? You say that again, I'm sorry? Are we good to go? All right, we're going to pick back up. We're talking about right now 7 pronouncements that the Messiah made in regard to overcoming our challenges, our infirmities, our shortcomings, and those are to be unharmed by the second death, which is a matter of dealing with an eternal separation from life. The death that we experience, the first death, when we die physically, is just somewhat of a sleep. There's actually an article that quantum physics has recently released that has stated that death is just an illusion, which is very interesting because we know the first law of thermodynamics clearly states that energy is neither created nor destroyed, but it only transforms, right? But the sovereignty of the creator, who is the source of life, has the power to bring all of that to an eternal succession. And that is what the second death is about. And that is where the lake of fire concept comes from, which was a place called Gehenna, which referred to a place of refuge outside of the holy city, Jerusalem. And this is where all the trash was burned up so that it would not affect the quality of society, the quality of life in society. And so this is what those who are unrighteous, the wicked, right? Well, this is what they will experience. This is a burning up, a smiting, if you will, of those who live lives of refuse. They call them sons and daughters of worthlessness. This is the Belial spirit, Belial spirit, okay? And all who are considered worthless, or the tares, if you will. You have wheat and you have weeds, the tares. Those who do not bear righteous fruit will be burned. And this is what that second death is about. But those who overcome will not be harmed by the second death. Those who overcome will have access to the rule over nations and given the morning star, okay? Sovereignty. This is what the priestly kingdom is about, to rule in righteousness, though, not just to have this iron fist just for the sake of being dictators and totalitarian types of government, but to rule by order and law and love and justice. To be clothed in white raiment, with your name etched in the book of life and your name confessed before the Father and his messengers. That righteousness, to be clothed in righteous garments, to have that illuminating countenance once again covering you, and your name written in the book of life for an everlasting lot of life. Okay, to be made into a firm and established pillar in the temple of Elohim, the name of Elohim and the city of Elohim written upon them, as well as Yahoshua's new name. To be a pillar in the temple, the living temple, the living stones that is spoken of in scripture, that gives the true house of Elohim its very structure. And this is based on the oneness of the household of faith that will allow the spirit of the Most High to be manifest on earth, where there will be no questions, no doubt, no speculations, no naysayers about whether or not there is an Elohim, a mighty one that lives and is true. And then to be seated upon the throne with Yahushua in the kingdom of the Father, which also correlates to sovereignty and the ability to bring forth this kingdom through righteous power. So the Hebraic language and imagery employed in these pronouncements are strikingly familiar to the objective of the cultural and spiritual transmission of the Kabbalah, in that both transcendence and the unification of the consciousness of light are to be interchanged and experienced by the children of Israel. What is to take place is the transcendent is to be married to the immanent. The eternal is to be married to the temporal. The infinite is supposed to be married to the finite. And these bridges that bring it together, this consciousness that bridges these realities, causes this to manifest in the now. Okay, right now they are separate, but there will come a time when this quantum leap, if you will take place, that will allow for consciousness to be able to experience all those things. And this is what the rabbi from Tarsus wrote of Paul, which he says this corrupted nature must put on this incorruptible nature. This earthly human must put on this heavenly human, right? And this is what all this is talking about, and how we become this light that the earth is so much in need of. But this becomes all the more apparent, this transformation, right? As these pronouncements recall the transforming experiences of the patriarchs. Abraham from Abram and Israel from Jacob, undergoing a transformation of consciousness and thus a transformation of identity. Okay, we see this also with Hosea, the son of Nun, becoming Yehoshua, or Joshua, if you will, in the book of Exodus. But in the book of Genesis, you see Abram become Abraham. You see his wife Sarai become Sarah, right? You see Jacob become Israel. Jacob was a deceiver and a beguiler, but he became one who crossed over and wrestled with Elohim and became like Elohim, okay? And that's what Israel means, the prince of Elohim, Sar El, which is Israel, okay? But also means to be the upright one, to be the straight one, okay? That's what that name also has a meaning of. It is a common Hebraic cultural practice that personal change is accompanied by a change of name, which symbolizes the essence, nature, character, and life mission of an individual. Also glaringly apparent are the references to the pillars in the temple, which further refers to the 3 pillars of the tree of life. These pillars symbolize the principles of justice, mercy, and the balance of the poles, and also, or two, have a masculine and feminine energy associated with it. The ascendant who overcomes their carnal nature will be able to partake of the celestial energy reserved for the righteous, which is channeled through the tree of life. This is also a reference to the hidden manna. When one partakes of the heavenly bread of life, the blessing assured and the priestly benediction will then become a reality. For the aspirant who ascends the Sephiroth, those spheres, the 10 spheres, and receives the illumination upon their countenance, as it is written. And Yah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, this is how you bless the children of Israel. Say to them, Yah bless you and guard you. Yah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I shall bless them. Okay, that's from Numbers 6:22 through 27. So this is how this reality becomes manifest, through our faithfulness to this, through our overcoming, and to putting to rest the nature that is corrupted. And so it shall be, right? This is what this all comes down to. Upon decoding the message, one is able to traverse the heretofore unknown universe of pure consciousness. So there is an existence of pure consciousness in that realm that is called the Ein Sof, the absolute nothingness, or the infinite light, from which all life does emanate. Okay, this is where life emanates. Okay, there's 4 realms even after that. You have the realm of Asaya, which is the pure consciousness. Ein Sof is above that, however. You have the realm of Yetzirah or Yetzirah, which is the world of formation, where things have their archetypal structure. But Asaya is the realm, this is pure emanation. Okay. You have the realm of next Asaya. So Azilut is the first one. So Asaya is the realm of now, where everything is becoming formed, in the sense that it is now manifest, but it is not yet sentient, but it is in the world of Baraya, of creation, where everything is made sentient in its form, is purposed, okay? So there's 4 dimensions, but the mind is able to travel beyond the realm of manifestation and creation to a higher realm of pure consciousness through meditation. But through that meditation, there's also an awakening of consciousness that allows for us to connect in consciousness to these realms. And this is where prophetic vision truly comes into the fold, okay? But as we have already said, the power of the Hebrew language provides those who have mastered it access to the mysteries of creation. Yet, most importantly, for those who have mastered themselves, they will become what is known as the true words of Yah, those who fulfill the living will of the Most High. Now, this is very important, because we know in the the Messianic scriptures, which many call the New Testament, it talks about this man, Yahushua ben Yosef, or Yeshua ben Yosef, the Messiah, becoming the Word made flesh. And what has happened so much is that the world has just left that solely to that individual. No one else can ascertain that, which is in fact false. Everyone who enters into this kingdom is supposed to be that. Okay, everyone who goes to serve the Most High is intended to be transformed into the Most High's living words. How do we know that? It is written in Isaiah 55:10 and 11, for as the rain comes down and the snow from the heavens and do not return there, but water the earth and make it bring forth and bud and give seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so is my word that goes forth from my mouth. It does not return to me empty, but shall do what I please and shall certainly accomplish what I sent it for. Okay, so this is connected, and I don't have it written in here, and I should have connected it into it. But in Revelation 19, I believe it's verse 11, it talks about blessed are those who have been called to the wedding feast of the Lamb, for these are the true words of Elohim. Okay, so those who were called to that wedding feast are like the word that goes forth from his mouth. But those who appear at the wedding feast are those who have gone and accomplished what it was sent to do, and therefore they have become the living words, the true words of the Most High. And that is what our responsibility is. We are to manifest that reality as well. Okay. So though we are presently beset about with dangers and challenges on all sides, there is a way to rise above the aberrations and the distortions and the illusions, right, in society that prevent the light from entering our vessels. We can compare this matter to that of the modern technological advance of the internet and Wi-Fi access for wireless devices. Interestingly, Wi-Fi is an acronym that stands for wireless fidelity. Very important word, fidelity, which means faithfulness. It's reliable, which is what determines and connects a wireless device to a local area network. That the word fidelity is a part of this technology suggests a spiritual symbolic representation of a higher principle. The faithfulness of the service provider providing an uninterrupted connection to cyberspace, which one is able to access seemingly infinite information, is truly something about which to marvel. As an article from Scientific American describes how all this works, we see even more spiritual parallels with this technology. It says that Wi-Fi works off the same principle as other wireless devices. It uses radio frequencies, vibrations, right, to send signals between devices, which we have organically, okay? The radio frequencies are completely different, say, from walkie-talkies, car radios, cell phones, and weather radios. For example, your car stereo receives frequencies in kilohertz and megahertz range, AM and FM stations, and Wi-Fi transmits and receives data in the gigahertz range. To break it down even further, hertz is simply a unit of frequency. Let's say you're standing on a pier watching waves come in. As you look down at the waves, you can see the crest of each wave roll on by. If you counted how many seconds between each wave crest, this would be the frequency of the waves. So if the time between each crest was 1 second, that would mean that the frequency was 1 hertz or 1 cycle per second. And this has a correlation to what you call the law of vibration, of which everything has a vibratory resonance to it. Okay, and the higher the resonance, of course, the more spiritual the matter becomes. The more dense, the more slow the resonance, the more slow the hertz, the vibratory resonance, the more dense and more visible it becomes. This is why light is so important. We only see the Roy G. Biv spectrum of light, but there are spectrums of light outside the ultra and also the infra, right? So we can really know that there are things that are not perceptible by the naked eye or even our mind, but if we were able to tap into that higher realm of consciousness, it could become perceptible. Okay. So going on, while the world is operating on frequencies that are at lower vibrations, when we are operating in our lower nature, we're at lower vibrations. We can't tap into the higher vibration stuff. We can't see things that the spiritual mind can see. We can't discern things or even perceive and believe things because we're so locked in on a lower nature. So while the world is operating on frequencies that are at lower vibrations, which actually disconnects them from the ultimate revelation of life, those who follow the teachings of Prophet Yahushua ben Yosef are allowed access to the most powerful connection that exists in all of creation, the tree of life. This is the most powerful paradigm in existence, the tree of life. As the world of Wi-Fi is protected with security codes, firewalls, and antivirus programs, so too is the realm of the tree of life. The Kabbalah code of Yahushua is the ultimate guide to our elevation of consciousness and liberation from sin and death, and I will also throw into their ignorance. The prophet told an antagonistic crowd of his countrymen that if Elohim were your father, you would love me, for I came forth from Elohim and am here. For I have not come of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not know what I say? Because you are unable to hear my word. You are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you wish to do. You're on that vibration. You're on a deceiving, dualistic, not oneness, a dualistic, which is what Diablo means, devil, Diablo 2, right? To be divided type of nature. He was a murderer from the beginning and has not stood in the truth because there is no truth in him. His resonance is too low. His vibratory levels are too low for truth to resonate within him. When he speaks the lie, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And because I speak the truth, you do not believe me. Who of you proves me wrong concerning sin? And if I speak the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of Elohim hears the words of Elohim. Therefore, you do not hear me because you are not of Elohim. And this is where that divide becomes so clear. Going back to Genesis 1, when Elohim said, let there be light, and there was light, he separated the light from the darkness. He said the light was good, did not acknowledge the darkness. The darkness was still in existence. However, the light had overcome the darkness. He separated waters from waters, right? He separated, these are all codes of code words for people, for spiritual energies within people. You have light people, you have dark people, you have a heavenly water people, you have an earthly water people. You have heaven and earth. You have people who are heavenly and you have people who are earthly, right? But we know that those which are higher will endure, okay? And this is what life is all about. Those who have undergone the process to receive of the tree of life and have set themselves apart to enter into this consciousness will partake. Herein is the sole salvific principle of life for the sons and daughters of Adam, to hear and fulfill the word of Yah. This simple and profound life choice holds creation's most splendid and enlivening gift, that of life. And it is life in the Torah that we must choose in order to experience the harmonic reality of creation that pervades all organic matter that exists. For it is the desire of the Father of all spirits and flesh for us to become one with him. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh Elohim, Yah is one. That oneness includes us. And when we are one, all of earth shall also be one and more in harmony. We too must make the unification with Yah our chief desire, so that our frequencies might elevate to the level of crown or keter, where the pure energy of the supreme universal mind is transmitted into our vessels in the form of supernal light, providing us with perception and intelligence to bring forth the perfect order of society in accordance with the dynamic laws of the universe and consciousness. In the final analysis, it should be clear to the hearer from this essay that as humans, we have the innate ability to elevate our consciousness to a cosmic, interstellar reality. This is clearly articulated in the book of Exodus when it says, go to the people and set them apart today and tomorrow, and they shall wash their garments, and they shall be prepared by the third day. For on the third day, Yah shall come down upon Mount Sinai or Sinai before the eyes of all the people. There is a descent of higher consciousness that is able to be received, a transmission rather. There's a transmission of higher consciousness that is able to be perceived given the clarity of our Wi-Fi and whether or not we have in fact paid the bills to keep this connection on. Okay. And that is just through our faithfulness. That is through our set apartness. That is through our righteousness and our love for the Most High and for one another. That ultimately is what keeps the lights on, right? The connection open is that love. The purpose of this and all other elevations that have and will take place is for nothing less than the evolution of humanity and society into its intended state and harmony, which is the reflection of the image and likeness of the Creator in which we are created, as well as our bringing forth the kingdom of Yah established in justice, righteousness, truth, and love. This entire process, as we have discussed throughout this writing, is accomplished through the rigorous refinement of our nature in obedience to the Torah, which will then unlock dimensions and gifts that have been reserved for those who have toiled with themselves and overcome to be given the right to eat fruit from the tree of life. It is then when the world order, as we know, will be reflective of the higher states of consciousness in Yah, which humanity will have finally entered. It is my prayer that this writing will inspire you to embark on this all-filled journey within, and that your obedience to the word of Yah might give you the right to eat from the tree of life. Selah. And that's a mouthful. It took literally 3 weeks, 3 hours to share the contents of this particular article, but this article contains so much meat that, you know, it's essential to take your time and really ruminate over it. They say, right? Ruminate is what cows do as well when they're in the pastures grazing. When they chew their food, they're ruminating, right? So it's to deliberate, to think over, to chew on it, and to taste and see that Yah is good. Because what are the answers that humanity is looking for in our day and time? We're looking for love. We're looking for peace. We're looking for harmony. We're looking for truth. We're looking for immunity, right? We're looking for so many different remedies to all of the maladies that we're experiencing in life. And the truth of the matter is they're found in simple steps. They're not easy to do, but they're found in simplicity. And what the Torah prescribes, in all honesty, is a simple formula for us to experience life. Something that we really have not fully experienced. It's like our minds. We haven't even really fully experienced the full capacity of our mind power. We use perhaps up to 7%. And that's for those who are literally like doing a lot, like sharpening their minds. But we have at least 6 senses, right? With 3 other forms of sensation that we can use besides sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste. You also have clairvoyance, you have telepathy, you have telekinesis, and who knows what you have. And then you have ultimately prophetic sense, a prophetic sense, which is an ability to receive the transmission from the Creator itself. And that is the highest form of intellectual capacity and cognition right there. It's prophetic consciousness. And when you're able to use that and to eat from that tree of life, well, the idea is to then bring that life to those who have ears to hear and eyes to see. You can't give what's holy to the dogs or pearls to swine, right? Don't give your pearls to swine, and don't give what's holy to the dogs, lest you just be trampled. It's not for everybody, and that's just a harsh reality. It's like a classroom. You have 25 students in the classroom. You cannot expect, and you should not expect, unfortunately, I won't say you should not, you would love for everyone in that classroom to get the message, to get the pedagogy, the instruction. But unfortunately, the reality is everyone in that classroom is not going to get it. Most will pass, some will fail, right? And so the key is to assist them in that process, to have their peers assist them, because this is what humanity is for. Humanity, again, Homo sapiens, means we are the same wisdom. We have the same wisdom with one another. That's what homo means. Same. Sapiens comes from the word sapient or sapience, which means to have wisdom, to be wise, to be sagacious. This is what we are created to do. This is our genus. This is our species, right? This is what makes us human. And what makes us human is that we have ascended from the reptilian brain, and we've also gone above the limbic brain to now have access to what they call the neocortex section of the brain, which is where consciousness is found. True consciousness. Not only self-awareness, but cosmic and universal awareness. This is why meditation is so important. I just had a discussion on another radio station this past weekend about meditation, and the significance and power of meditation, and then what that can do for us, not only centering us, not only filling us when we're empty, not only emptying us when we're full, but it also has the ability to connect us to true life. And so this is what this whole 3-week part of Tree of Life was really all about, was to convey the power in meditation and what we have access to. We have access to the Tree of Life. My premise was Michael speaking of what Michael understands. The scriptures, the Torah, the law, if you will, the instructions that are found in there are fences that lead to the Tree of Life. Yes, the Tree of Life is a part of the Torah. We know in Proverbs 3, it says, those who found wisdom, which is a synonym for the Torah, have found the Tree of Life, because it leads to that. It leads to the treasure. And so once we partake of life, we are led to that tree. And once we have been led to that tree and are given access and the right to eat that tree again, by practicing the proper rites to eat from the tree, well, then we will see life truly just bloom on earth. And this is our responsibility. This is everyone's responsibility on earth, is to sow life in order to reap life. Okay? And this is what I propose as an effective way to do it in shifting our paradigm, and shifting the way we think, and shifting the way we see things, because that is what makes us in the image of Yah, is when we are able to perceive what Yah has established in spirit and truth. When we are able to perceive that, then we are operating and functioning in the image of Yah. And then when we exercise our minds, the intellect that he has given us, and we make the right decisions, then we bear what in Hebrew is called his midot, his character, which is the likeness that we then exercise. That is what makes us in the image and likeness of Yah. When we see things and we do things the way that Yah has designed it, then you're operating as a child of the Most High. Then you are truly immersed in the light of life. And then you'll be eating from the tree of life. And so with that, I want to hopefully, just encourage everyone to just, continue your journey. And know that the Most High and the kingdom is found within you. We're oriented at times to pray to the sky, although it does help to look up to the heavens or to the hills from which comes our help. But that's only symbolic of understanding that that is also within you, right? Because we can look down so many times and be discouraged, but when we look up, like, hold your head up. That means, like, know how the Most High can use you to deliver yourself and others from dire situations. It's possible. It is very possible. But I want to thank the listeners for tuning in today here on KUAW. This is Shifting Paradigms. I'm your host, B. Michael. I want to thank KUAW for hosting Shifting Paradigms, the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, who is the main host of this here. Baba G. Walker for always doing a great job on the soundboard, and for being so faithful himself to this vision of community radio and dynamic, wonderful programming. Always a big shout out to Baba G, and to the other program hosts. Big shout out to you all as well. Tune in to the other programs here. And most high willing, I'll be back in 2 weeks and have a new program going on, a new topic to share with you all. And if you all want to share, get any ideas back to me or want to hear something, you can go ahead and email me at bmichaellong@gmail.com. Be Michael Long on Facebook. I Be Michael on Instagram, so that you can share some different thoughts that you may have, or to say what topics you may want to hear and moving forward in the future. But again, I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is Shifting Paradigms. I'm your host, B. Michael. Peace and power, peace and love, peace and blessings. Until next time, shalom and shalom.